All right. So, this video is more, it's about keeping your filament dry, but it's not using an actual dryer, right? This video is about the desiccant that you use, and it's everywhere. I mean, it comes packed in desiccant. Of course, they're vacuum sealed, all your filament spools. But it comes in everything, right? I mean, just about everything you buy, any kind of electronics, any kind of perishable stuff. This desiccant, these little desiccant packs are just everywhere. And you can either save those or you can buy them in bulk, right? You can buy with little pellets and you just take what you want. And some can even be color coded so that you'll know when it needs to be reconditioned. Now, I saved the little packs, and I've saved quite a few of them. And I store them in a few different places because a lot of times when I'm using when I unbox a spool of filament and I'm not going to use it all right away, well, I throw it back into a Ziploc bag or something that's sealed, and I'll throw desiccant in there with it. And a lot of it I use, I just keep them in bulk, and I keep them in a bag or something like that. But I also keep them in some of my units, like this AMS. Let me show you. So you can see in this AMS, you know, I put these little silicon packs on these little front cavities. They're probably not meant to be that, but I'm sure a lot of you guys currently do it. They're pretty handy. You can drop the desiccant packs right down in there, and but sometimes they are hard to get out. Right? You can see I'm trying to get my fingers in there. Come on. Dang it. There it is. All right. So they can be kind of a pain to get in and out. You know, they drop in easy, sure. But handy little pockets, though. And then, of course, underneath the spools, it has little cavities with the cover on it, and they're vented, and you can put desiccant in there. So there's plenty of places you can put silicon. Oh, and I also usually put some desiccant down here inside the spools, right? So you can really load this AMS down with desiccant, because they're not really a dryer, right? They are they're nice and sealed, but it doesn't heat up, it doesn't dry them. But when you have all this silicon, the desiccant in there, it'll definitely help keep your filament drier while it's in use. And I usually say, if it's when I'm printing and I finish a spool or a couple of spools, when I'm changing the spools out, well, I also change the desiccant, right? And but it works fairly well. You can see it's still only 90%. That's after I opened it up. 90%. You can see my little gauge I just dropped in there. It reads the humidity and temperature in Fahrenheit. But and you can see I also put these in my dryers. And you know, if I only have one spool in here, I just drop all my desiccant down in there, and so my desiccant is being reconditioned while I'm drying the spools, right? And you just have to be careful. You can see, like, I have 2 spools in here, and when you start dropping all this stuff down in there, well, they can get wedged down in there and start inhibiting the rolling of the spool. And when you're looking at this, all these smaller ones, you see they'll tend to drop down in here. You don't want them to get too close to the heater. That could be kind of dangerous. So you just got to watch on that. But it does a good job. And here too with the spools, I can throw some here in the middle, and all the little cavities and whatnot. So to help manage all of these desiccant packs, I designed a few little containers, little that you can use. And let's see, let me start first with, this is the Jagged little pill. So you can see it's well ventilated. Let me find some desiccant here. So with these, you can either just stuff them in the hole, or if you have a slightly bigger one that you want to go in there, well, this thing is threaded and it comes apart in two pieces. So whichever way, but you can just stuff them in. And what this does, you can put them in the middle of a spool there. So while your spool, if while you're using it, say if I load it up in the AMS, and while it's slowly rotating, you can see it just stays at the bottom and it won't fall out. Because otherwise, and you can see how easy it is to take out. You just grab it and it slides. And it's a little, and this is not one of the larger holes, so it'll fit even the larger spools, as long as it has a little cavity in there, right? But it's kind of a little safer rather than, say, if you throw some loose packs in and while you're using it, so that they might just fall out. So you don't want them to get in the way of your rollers or anything like that. So that's the first thing, the Jagged little pill. So this one did need, when I was printing it off, most of this stuff, just about all of it, I did use ASA, given that in some instances it might be, subjected to some heat. But when I printed them off, I printed them face down like that, and this piece didn't need any support, but this side did, so it's just a very little bit, but they turned out pretty good. So the next little one, let's see, let's start with this. This is just a Dropbox, and you can see it's kind of small, and it's ventilated on 3 out of 4 sides, so when you're looking at it from this way, you don't see any perforations there. But like with these little packs, you can just drop one in and then drop it in, and guess where this goes? This goes into the AMS on those front cavities. So you can see it holds like one little pack. They're kind of slim, but it makes it super easy just to drop it down in there, and you can hardly see it. And I put this little tab on here so that it's easy to grab it, take it out, replace your filament, and go. So not bad. I mean, you can see that, but at least it's not as hard to get it in and out. It comes in kind of handy. Now I just put you can use whatever pattern you want. This was just the easiest to do, and you can still see there was some imperfections on the top here, but it still slides in real easy. I had some the first iterations of it. Now the white, I just did it because I had a lot of white ASA, but once I put this in here and I dropped it in, it was like, well, it looks just as bad. I mean, it's so visible. Might as well just throw the pack in there, right? And plus, looking at the top here, I like seeing the blank face forward, so it's almost, you almost can't see it, from afar. But in this, I did use ASA also, although it's not going to be really subject to too much heat inside the AMS. If you could, use PETG or whatever you want, but I just do a lot of ASA, so that's what I did. Okay, the next item, let's move on. This next item, I just call it my giant snuff box, but you can see it's modeled after, shaped like a spool. And so with this, you can fill it full, Just put a ton of desiccant in there. You can hold it all, and this is just an easy, just a slight interference fit for the lid. I mean, it's not hard at all, but it doesn't fall apart. And with this, you can see you can load it with full of desiccant, and it's perfect if you have like a dual filament dryer, right? I can put it right in there, and I can dry my desiccant packs along with the filament, and I don't have to worry about all these packs, you know, flying around in there and getting too close to the heater and all that good stuff. And once you're finished with it, you can either leave it in there or just keep them stashed away in a bag. You can either, you know, dump your desiccant in there or just fit this whole thing in there, right? And there you go. But this one, so when you're looking at it, I printed these with these faces down, and it required no support, and I did print these using ASA, right? So I'll show you some settings about this so that there will be no warpage. You can see these are perfectly flat, no warpage with ASA, and I'll show you some with the settings after I show you this next product. And basically, I'm calling it the cradle, but it's basically just a half a spool, right? So you can do the same thing. You can go in here and stuff your desiccant in there if you don't want the full spool, and just put the lid on it and place it in your dryer, right? Did the same thing. This I printed out of ASA, and with this one, there are two halves just like this. I did it that way just so that there would not be any no need for any support, but then you just have to put the two sides together and the lid just pops on and off. Now for the hex pattern on this, when I modeled these items, I modeled them just blank, no pattern, no nothing on them, and I applied the hexagon pattern in the slicer, and I can show you what I did. So let's take a look. This is the one of the sides on the cradle, and you can see it's just blank. There's no pattern cut into it or anything. I just exported out of Fusion 360, and when I'm ready to print this, so I have it on generic ASA, when I'm going down to strength here, so I am going to turn off the top and the bottom layers, and I'm going to change the infill pattern over to is it honeycomb? I believe it was. And let's slice it real quick and see what it looks like. Oh, yep, there we go. So, and you can, if you want a larger pattern, let's go down to 10. Slice it. That's a little better. So you can see it's laying down the pattern here. This is actually the infill, but since I turned off the top and bottom layers, there is no solid layer, right? but it does have sides, and walls I might even want to increase that up to 5 so that there'll be more support for these rings that are going around. But that's the way I did it. So I did not model it in Fusion 360 to get these patterns out. And if you want, I mean, you can use any pattern. Let's try, what is a tri-hex? Yeah, take a look at that. That's kind of cool. There was another one, gyroid. I think this was pretty cool. So if you take a close look at it, that's pretty neat. Neat little pattern. But I just went straight for that hexagon or the honeycomb, and I just wanted to show you how I did that. Another trick to, like I was saying with these larger flat pieces with ASA, a lot of times you'll run into some warpage, right? But if you take a look, when you're setting your filament, and go over to cooling, make sure on this max fan threshold I go all the way down, say 20% max, sometimes just 10% max, especially the thinner the piece. You really don't want to have a lot of fan cooling or any kind of draft going through, or that's what will make it warp, right? So just adjust this down. Make sure you set that before you slice it. And what else? When you're looking at the device, once it starts printing, you'll see up here it'll only go up to like 10 or 20, whatever you have it set for. But I also put the chamber fan, I'll just up it to like 10% just to make sure I'm getting some of the fumes to come out of the unit. While I'm doing that, of course, because I did hook up a ventilation system, and I turned that on, and along with this chamber fan, just slightly drawing it out. It helps keep it clean, because everybody knows, I mean, with ASA, those are the two most picky parts on it. It's the warpage. It's just a matter of adjusting the fan, and there's a lot of fumes involved, so I'm trying to get those sucked out. I keep it good and clean, but this definitely helps. Alright, so that's it. You can see how I did this. This one, I just, starting out with the blanks, and I did it in the slicer. With this one, I did put my own pattern on there. I did model it up in Fusion 360 and printed it that way. But if you have the blank of this, you can do the same thing. You know, just whatever your preference is. So I will put the files for these, all 4 of these, up on printables, printables.com, and you can download them and print them off if you want. And I'm also going to have some alternate designs, and I'll have those files available. If you want something like that, you can join me on Patreon, and you'll have access to all alternate files, alternate designs that you just won't be able to find anywhere else, right? So that'll be kind of cool, and I would very appreciate it for the support. So I guess that is it for this video. So as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and watch my next video.